right at the front there. Oh yeah, no, on that side.
So the reason why this album is confusing is because
Yeah, I know.
goldstandardlabs.com.
I wonder if it's still there. This is so long ago, 2003. Welcome.
All right, we're back for another episode of Sound Culture, where we give you recommendations on albums you should listen to, and if they're albums you've listened to before, give them a re-listen, because this one, Death from Above 1979, The Physical World, is definitely worth a listen.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Brendon.
And we're talking about this album because Death from Above released an album last year, and I was a little disappointed with it, actually, to be honest, Brendon. I don't know if you listen to Rages now.
I find that the more albums the band releases, the harder it is to have full appreciation that you had for the previous albums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this album, man, this is a good album.
Mm-hmm. Considering it was 10 years since their last album.
Yeah.
And they just, they broke up and then they just got back together. I feel like this album's almost wiser, or it feels like they've grown a little bit.
Yep. It's got more of the stuff you love. So there's more heavy stuff, there's more pop stuff. It's just a little bit tighter album.
Yeah, and that's not to discredit, You're a Woman, I'm a Machine. That was an absolutely raw album, but it's done well. And I got to mention, too, that these guys, their performance ability is astronomical. I remember I first saw them in 2004 when they were touring with Alexis on Fire and Billy Talent.
Mm-hmm.
They had more energy than both of those guys combined, and they really opened my eyes in a lot of ways, because I was playing bass in a band. I did for about 8 years, and that guy did things with the bass guitar I've never seen before, and they were successfully using distortion, normally a guitar effect, on the bass, and it's really tough to do that with class, because it has a huge thick impact, and these guys, they really stuck out. Not to mention there's only two of them, and I had a lot of respect for them when I first saw them.
People have talked about this before in reviews of Death from Above, which, by the way, is now their official name. They went from being Death from Above to being Death from Above 1979 because Death from Above, the label, was suing them.
Yeah.
So now they're back to being Death
sad.
from Above. And anyway, so the reason why this album, people have talked about it so much, is because, like Brendon said, there's so much richness to their vocals, to the bass, and to the drums, and on top of that, it's actually taken them into a different direction than a typical two-piece band does. Like, there have been lots of people who followed their act since, but there wasn't a lot of people doing what they did as a two-piece before. Like, we talk about influencers and talk about bands that influence bands and musicians and things like that. These guys have actually said that they don't take a lot of influence from bands like the White Stripes.
Yeah, they specifically said that.
They say it. They've said that people could see the obvious connection in the fact that there's two people, one's playing bass and one is playing drums. But
they're just similarities.
But that's literally the only similarity. In terms of the lyrical content, in terms of the tone of the music, very different.
Yeah, like I've heard them described as garage rock, stoner metal, and even dance punk. They're in this little niche. And
they do this lo-fi thing too, where it's like you said, like it's so rough. They are intentionally rough with their instruments, like
they're a machine, baby. Yeah, absolutely.
To the point that you're like, how did you get that sound out of that?
Yeah. And going back to what we said earlier about the more universal appeal, I think they did a really good job on songs like Crystal Ball and Cheap Talk and Right On Frankenstein, where it's almost upbeat, and I think that's where some of the dance punk references can come to. But then other songs like Virgins has a really heavy, deep, and like an all-encompassing bass line. It's a little bit slower, and they do both styles so well.
Yeah, and that's where, like I said, it gives you a bit of both things. The both things that they were really good at, and it kind of, they focus in on those two types of music so well that whatever song they're performing, whether it's a poppier song or a heavier song, it's just a better version.
Yeah, it's really unique. Yeah. Absolutely. And these guys too, I got to mention, they're talented. These guys are working hard for their money. Not only is the singer playing drums at the same time, but the bassist is incredibly dynamic as well. Songs like Always On has a great use of these what are called hammer-on pull-offs while playing guitar, which just make things sound really, really fast. And I really, really appreciate their musicianship, because both of them have just essential roles in the band, and I have a lot of respect for them.
And I don't know if this is a huge difference, but their producer on this album, Dave Sardy, I don't know how you pronounce it, he has produced a lot of really great movies. I don't know if you're familiar with Zombieland. It is sort of a rule-breaking, genre-breaking zombie film. He's done that. He did the score for 21. He did the score for Premium Rush. So if you listen to those albums, you listen to the albums that go with those films, and you listen to this album that Death from Above 1979 did, you can see that there's a lot of nuance to it, but it's also very energetic. So again, it makes sense that they would bring someone in who's really good at taking high energy ideas and bringing in the drama and the romance and all that, and kind of just fitting it all together into a really nice package. It doesn't feel overproduced. Like, I don't take it that I think that it's overproduced. I just mean that it fits well.
Yeah, and that helps again with that kind of universal appeal. And it's it's notable that these guys didn't really get along too well, and I think despite all that, I think they came out with a really good album.
I think one other thing I want to comment on, this is a personal anecdote, because you talked about how you've seen them in concert a couple times. I've seen them in concert a couple times as well, and this is just something I find funny about them. When I saw them when they got back together in 2013, just before they were about to release this album, they in their performance they were talking about how to rile up a crowd. So Sebastien, he's got tattoos like all over the front of his chest and arms and everything like that. And he's the drummer, right? So he's in there, and he's facing one direction, because the way his kit's set up, he can only point one direction, right? Like, that's just normal for a drummer. So he's actually facing stage left. I don't know, it doesn't matter, but he's facing one way.
So you can see him as he's playing
So you can see him, right? You can see him performing, and so people who are on one side of the audience, because it was at Sonic Boom, not that matters for people who live in other countries, but in Edmonton we have this festival in the summer called Sonic Boom, and it's broken up so that there's basically two areas of the stage, and then there's a track so that if someone's crowd surfing, they can get saved, right? And brought back up. Anyway, so I was on the left side of the stage in the crowd, and I was facing Sebastien, and he was talking about how he's got all these cool tattoos. He's like, I got all these really cool tattoos. And he's like, you know what? I'm glad you guys can see my cool tattoos, but you guys who can see my back, you can see all my scars and all the stuff that I've been like through in life, and all the like the knots and everything. So you get to see the real me. So I want you guys to keep it real, and I want you guys to keep it cool.
That's hilarious.
But like, it's just, that's the kind of energy that they bring, I think, is my point with that anecdote.
Yeah, again, the performance
they're really good performers.
Amazing. Yeah, and I remember for the first time I saw somebody pour water all over the drums for the encore, and then he was just going to town on them, and the water was going up every time he played. And I'd never seen something like that before, so I really remembered it.
And the reason why we bring this up is because, and I think we both agree with this, is that sometimes the difference between a good musician and a bad musician is their ability to perform live. If you can't perform live well, you're, I don't know, you're not going to fit everybody in the marketplace, right?
I mean, certain musicians, they have innate skills, and then they have things they need assistance with, and I think if you don't need assistance with performance, you can go far.
a lot farther. So that's just something to keep in mind. I think this album kind of shows like they've kind of perfected their art at this point.
They've grown a lot, and didn't they win a Juno?
They won Rock Album of the Year for 2015, so there you go.
Good for them,
so I think that's pretty much covers this album. This is Sound Culture. I hope you check this album out.
And thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.